It's part of my banter.
Good morning, everyone.
Yay, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Business Heroes Podcast. I am Mia.
And I'm Victor.
And we are Pain Unwasted. We started our organization after my nervous breakdown in 2017. Can you believe that? At one point in time, I was so sad, you guys, that I actually had to be hospitalized for suicidal ideation. And all of that after being a principal, a teacher, and traveling the world with my husband. And so we have created this station because we want to reach our entrepreneurs, our high performing professionals that are pursuing profit, purpose, and passion so that they can change the world for good. And I feel like I just dashed into who we are. I just jumped in there, didn't I?
People need to know what they're about to get into.
Yes, and we are so glad that you're watching the show with us today. You all, we have an amazing guest on here, okay? That's probably why I dashed in, because I'm thinking about the guest that we have. And I'm just really excited. Like, being able to talk to her even before this interview was just an honor. You know what I mean? Like, to meet people who are so powerful. I'm like, Lord, thank you for blessing me. You know what I'm saying? To have this opportunity, and we get to share that same opportunity with you. And so I'm so glad for that. Victor, you're looking very handsome today.
And you're looking beautiful as always, baby.
You know what? You're wearing my favorite color, which is purple. Did you do that on purpose?
Nope.
Because I was just trying to figure out if you're trying to distract me. We have a show to do, and you can't be like,
I think you're choosing distraction. You're choosing. Why don't we hop into our word for the day? Huh?
Yes, please. Okay, you read the word for the day, and I'm going to tell you why I chose this word. This is good.
All right, word of the day, strong. Now, people are like, why is that a word of the day? Don't we all know what strong is?
I'm going to tell you.
All right, so strong, having the power to move heavy weights or perform other physically demanding tasks. Now, I would edit that and say not just physically.
That's right.
Mentally also.
Yes.
Maybe in some other ways, right?
Absolutely. We'll definitely see you're talking about the second definition, right, that they usually list. And I chose this word because it really made me think about our presenter today. It really did. And I'm just going to be honest with you, Victor, like, honestly, there came a point where I really got tired of people saying, women are so strong or Black women are so strong, because it kind of started to feel like, for me, and if you're on and you're watching, let me know if you feel the same way. At some point it was like, okay, so if I'm strong, does that mean I can't cry? Does that mean I can't have feelings? Does that mean I can't have emotions? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I got to be strong. So I'm strong. So whatever is going on, just, don't see that because I'm strong. Right. And so that's how I was internalizing it at one point in time. But when I thought about the real meaning of strength, it doesn't mean that there is no weakness. It just means you've overcome it. Like, you have overcome. And I really appreciate that. And I feel like the person that we have on today, she has overcome many things and she's so inspiring. And so anyway, without further ado, I know we're just getting into it, guys. Like, this is your chance. If you have not gotten somebody, you need to go make some texts, make some calls, get them on here. Okay. We're going to read her bio, and then we're going to bring our special guest on today, and you are going to love the show.
Yeah. So we are going to read her bio.
Yes.
Just so you know a bit more about who we are getting into. Barbara Powell is the owner of Beebe Loves Beauty at www.bbelove.com. We'll put that on the screen so you can see it a little later. And her website is a blogging website to promote beauty, motivate, inform, provide mental stimulation, educate, inspire, and encourage other women over 50 in embracing their inner beauty.
Nice.
Barbara is also the office manager for Pain to Wellness Healthcare. She earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration at Colorado Technical University, concentrating in business development. Barbara's previous experience includes being a salon owner and manager of Beebe Loves Beauty Solutions, Beebe Loves Business Solutions as an independent small business coach consultant, corporate salon manager at Ulta Salons and Cosmetics, EEG Labs operations assistant at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, assistant project manager at Renkim Corporation, and electronic forms developer at Box Global. She is a contributing writer for Brains Magazine, a global digital magazine and media platform that focuses on articles and information on entrepreneurship, personal development, and leadership and lifestyle.
Wow.
And we'll put some for information on the screen a little later. She's also written 2 books that we'll be talking about, and the links are in the description already. And so if you have any comments, questions during the show, please feel free to drop those. And as we have time or when it's appropriate, we'll plug those in and show them on the screen. But with no further ado, we are going to have Barbara Powell Love on the screen. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning.
We're so excited to hear your story.
Absolutely. Yes.
I mean, even just coming up with the title, we went through a couple. It was kind of long, but I think it encapsulated everything.
Yes.
Regal Salon owner recovers from dream turned nightmare and shares through her story how to find inner beauty. So,
yes.
Thought I better close the blinds.
Oh, you're fine.
Sure, no problem. Man, thank you so much for being on our show today, Barbara. We are more than excited. Like literally all week long, I've just been like, Sunday, Sunday, come on. Because I've just been excited since we talked to share your story with others. And so we're going to just jump right into it and tell us how, like, what do you do? First of all, what do you do? And how did you get into it?
Yes, although I'm a serial entrepreneur, at this moment, I'm also office manager, like you said in my bio, for Pain to Wellness Healthcare with Helen Powell Stoddard. She is a physician that wants to heal people, really. So she has a program called Reverse It, reversing type 2 diabetes and other chronic diseases. And she also administers services for hormonal issues as well as metabolic issues. And I work right along beside her, and I enjoy every minute of it. Even though I'm technically a serial entrepreneur, but you know, as I'm technically retired, but I don't know, for some reason, I just can't retire from the entrepreneurial side of me. So I'm always doing something.
Man, wow.
And, you know, we were blessed to have her on the podcast several episodes ago. So if you all are looking for information on how to reverse type 2 diabetes, definitely peel back in our show and look for Helen Powell Stoddard. We had a great show with her as well.
Yes, and I just want to extra plug Dr. Stoddard. She is amazing. Okay, so she is definitely. Yes. I was looking at some of my Facebook pictures and my Facebook. I've been going live on Facebook every night, and it's been about 165 days. And so it's so funny because I met you through Dr. Stoddard and signing up for the Pain to Wellness program. And as I was looking at my lives, I was like, wait. My cheeks are different. Like I'm not as rosy and fluffy as I was. And I know fluffy, yes. And I know it's because of the great advice that I was getting, the medical advice that I was getting from Dr. Stoddard. Like she really opened my eyes to things that I was doing in my health that I didn't realize were making me sick, messing up my sleep, and keeping me fluffy. Just to say that. And so, amen for Pain to Wellness. I'm glad you brought them up, and please check them out. Okay. And maybe we need to add that description as well to it. But
we'll add that link to
so tell us more though, because I know, I mean, your hair is amazing, first of all.
Well, thank you.
And it's so funny because some hairdressers, their hair doesn't look nice, you know, when you see them, even though they do a great job.
Well, I think it's because hairdressers are so busy trying to get their clients beautiful, they forget about themselves. But I think over the years, that's kind of changing somewhat, that they begin to really care about how they look, how they represent themselves, you know, because if you're walking on the street and said, I can transform you into a beauty, and they're looking at you like, no, thank you. You know, I think they're thinking along a different route these days.
Yes. Well, praise the Lord. So, okay, tell us, because I know you have a juicy story. Like, how did you get into becoming this Regal Salon owner? Like, just how did this start?
Okay, now this could be a really long story, but I'm going to try to get as much in as I possibly can. You know, as long as I can remember, as a little kid, I loved playing with dolls and changing the hairstyles and all of that. And I had an aunt who was a hairstylist. And when I got to be a preteen, she showed me about how to relax hair and how to take care of hair. And all I wanted to do when I grew up was to be a hair designer. Back then they called it beauticians, but for some reason I didn't like that name back then even, but my father felt that, I don't want you being a beautician working out of your kitchen and all of that. I didn't want that either,
Right.
but I knew I wanted to make women beautiful, so when I graduated from high school, just to appease my parents, I went to the local university, Indiana University, and I didn't know why I was there other than to appease them. And I said, okay, I'll choose business administration, because I figured if I'm going to be a business owner one day, I may as well do some groundwork for that. So I became a student. But within a year, less than a year, I think in my second or third semester, I decided to get married to my boyfriend. So we got married, and it gave me an excuse to drop out of school. And then on top of that, when I got pregnant, I didn't have to go to school. So I used that time to become the little perfect housewife, the Stepford wife, keeping my house clean, making my floors shiny. And I could talk to you 15 minutes about how I got my floors to shine.
Wow.
And when my daughter turned 4, she had to, it was time for her to go to kindergarten. So that left me with, okay, I got to do something else. But all during that time, I was selling Mary Kay, I was selling Avon, Tupperware, Queensway. What else did I sell? Amway. I was selling everything, because if I'm going to be at home, I still felt like I had to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So when she went to kindergarten, my parents were saying, I thought you was going to go back to school. I said, okay, fine. So I enrolled in school again with the thought that, okay, I'll go into nursing. Mm-hmm. I really didn't want to, but that's what they wanted. And I think I went for maybe 2 semesters in the biology at the time. I was okay with biology, except for cutting up the frog again, because I did that in the 9th grade.
Right.
And I think I had to have some kind of phlebotomy class or something. It was like an advanced class that they were offering. I didn't like sticking people, and I didn't like the blood and all of that. So I quit. Before I did that, I started working in a nursing home just to see how it felt to work with sick people. But, in a nursing home, it's a different dichotomy other than a hospital. You worked with people who were mentally delayed. You worked with older people. You worked with people who just couldn't get themselves off the ground, and other people who were just in rehab until they can go home again. Mm-hmm. So I did that for 3 years while I was back and forth in school. But then I decided, what, nursing is not for me. I really want to be here. Then I got pregnant with my second baby, and I quit there, and I started working in a company. It was an excavation company, and I went there working for on the side of accounts payable, and kind of like a technical guru. Even back then, I've had a computer since that little cute little Mac computer, the colorful one. I didn't get that one. I got something called a laser computer that was supposed to be a competitor of Mac. And I just kind of honed my skills in computers. They didn't use that at my job. They used, I think, I don't even remember. I think it was Compaq or something back then. But I worked there for 3 years before I got pregnant again. And I promised them that when I came back from maternity leave, I would come back to them. But while I was on maternity leave, I worked up until 2 weeks before I delivered. But while I was on maternity leave, I decided I don't want to go back there. I want to go to beauty school because
Mhm.
that was my dream. I wanted to be a hair designer. And if not now, then when? You know?
Mhm.
So I enrolled in beauty school. And at the time, I was also breastfeeding my baby.
Right.
I would go to school, and on my break, I go pump my breast, go through my class, and then rush home and breastfeed the baby. And I
Right.
did that until she was about a year old.
Wow.
And,
That's
and
a lot.
yeah,
That's a lot.
and I also finished my beauty school within that year as well.
So, but now wait, because I remember you were saying that your parents. So, was this something you were like, parents, I'm gonna just do this. I know y'all don't want me to.
Yeah,
Like,
they,
was
they,
there any
they actually
resistance from that?
I think because by then I was married, I was an adult, I just put
Okay.
it to them that, I know you want me to go back to school, and I promise you I will. But right now, I want to go to beauty school. And they accepted it. My daddy was saying, yeah, beautician, what kind of money can you make being a beautician? But I said, you'll see, Pop, it's going to be fine, So I got my cosmetology license, and then I went on to enroll in an esthetician program so I could be a skincare specialist.
Nice.
I even took a makeup artistry course. I mean, I wanted
Okay.
to specialize in anything that had to do with making women beautiful.
So this means you didn't just want to be the typical hairdresser, like you were saying, like you were gonna have like this empire where you were
Yes,
able to
that was my dream, to just
everything for
have
them.
One-stop
just
shop.
have this
Nice.
awesome, like a salon mall kind of,
So
all in one.
were you seeing this type of business model already? Like, what made you say, I'm going to be the one-stop shop for beauty? Like, was that already out there, or was that something new?
Well, when I was in beauty school, Belvedere used to come and give little seminars, and they'd have these pictures of these awesome salons. And I'm like, wow. So what we would do, we would go to Chicago, my sister and I, and visit some of these upscale salons, because in my area, I didn't see that, but they were all over the place in Chicago. So we would go over to Chicago and visit different salons. And that was even before I got my license.
Mm-hmm.
But once I got my license, I knew I had to work in a salon. So there was a salon called Flora's Beauty Salon. She was one of the more popular salons in the area. So I worked for her, and it was like, I learned a lot, but I also learned a lot, like what not to do.
Mm.
So, and back then it was booth rent. And booth rent was pretty cheap. It was like $55 a week.
Wow.
But within 3 months, I was bringing in like $850 a week.
All right. All right.
So after 2 years of working there, I told my dad I wanted my own salon. So I contacted the SBA, and they put me in touch with the business department at Indiana University. They created my business plan and all of that. But in the meantime, I went to school to become a real estate agent.
Okay.
That didn't take too long.
An SBA, for those listening, you may already know that, but that's the Small Business Association, right? Okay, good.
Yes.
Yes. So they were setting you up for how you were going to have your own business.
Exactly.
That's a SBA.
That's right. Every state does have an SBA. So for those of you entrepreneurs who are looking on and you're like, where do I start?
Go to the SBA.
Okay.
Yes, they were amazing. They came out once I sold myself the building, and my dad refurbished the building for me.
Wait. Explain that again.
Yeah.
Explain that again, because you become a realtor.
I became a realtor.
Okay.
And I found
break
a
that down for
building.
people.
Yeah, I found a building right on the main strip. It was called Broad Street.
Okay.
And there were other salons on Broad Street. I keep wanting to say Broadway, but it was Broad Street. And the building was owned by actually a mobster.
Wow.
And he was going to be sent to prison for something. And this building, it used to be, the front was like a drugstore front. But when you go inside, there was pool tables and all. It was like gambling kind of thing.
Wow.
And he wanted at that time, he wanted to sell the building for $45,000 because he was trying to get as much money as he could before he went to prison. And in the back of the building was a big house attached. So they did all kinds of things back there. So it was like one of my second or third listings during the time. So when I went there, he wanted $45,000. That was cheap even back then. I offered him $25,000.
Watch out.
And then he said $26,500 and you got a deal.
Wow.
So we bought the building for $26,500, and my father went through and we demolished everything inside of the building. It was a good, strong structure, front and all of that. I went to Indiana University. A friend of mine was in architectural design at the time. He actually designed the front of the building for me.
Wow.
There was a little bit of nothing back then. And the the students at Indiana University, they came out, took pictures. They created my basic business plan because my accountant said he wanted my business plan to be as thick as a book. He wanted it to be this thick.
Oh, wow.
So they came out and they did everything. We had to do 1-year projections, 3-year projections, 5-year projections. He wanted everything, and he was amazing.
What was the purpose of those projections? Like, what would that mean for your business?
To get a bigger loan from the SBA. So we went to a bank back then. I think it was called Gainer, if I recall correctly. Yeah, Gainer Bank. And after I got my business package together, after it was approved by my accountant, and we went to the bank and they gave us the money. It was like no-brainer. I was also the first salon that was computerized.
Okay.
I had a computer, and it was during the time when caller ID was just coming in.
Okay.
So when people would call, my client name would pop up on the screen with their file underneath.
Nice.
It was like God just put people in my life, like, I don't know, just like before I could even ask, everything that I needed was falling into place. But let me back up a little bit. When I told my father that I wanted a beauty salon, wanted him to build my beauty salon,
wow,
he said, "A beauty shop?" I said, "No, Pop, a beauty salon."
All right.
He said, "What's the difference?" And I said, "I'll show you." So we went to Chicago to the Belvedere showroom so my dad could see what I was looking for.
All right.
And when he saw that, he said, but even before that, when I was saying, he said, "How do you make money at a beauty salon?" And I came home, back then, people didn't write you checks very often. It was always cash, and it wasn't credit cards. It was cash. I came over to my parents' house one day with all of my cash for the week. Because what I would do, when patients would pay me, I had a money bag that I would put the money in the bag. And then on Fridays, I'd make my deposits. So before I went to make my deposit for that week, I took the cash out and I spread it over the table.
Come on.
And my dad said, "Where did you get all of that money?" I said, "From my beauty salon business."
Watch out.
He said, "What? In 1 week?" I said, "Yep, in 1 week." I was averaging about $800 or $900 a week.
Wow.
And in the salon where I worked, I guess some people called us kind of bougie back then. We used to have fur shows.
Nice.
So half the people that came to salon wore furs. I had about 3 or 4 of them. And, you know, because we could buy them wholesale. One of the guys that would come in, he was the one who went to shoot the animals, and then they had somebody to actually create the furs, and they'd bring those furs in like a rack of furs. And patients, I mean, I keep saying patients because that's what I do now, but clients would buy these furs. They could put them on layaway, and we had a company called Christopher's that used to come through there. So we had furs.
Amazing. I mean, what I'm hearing you say, and I hope entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, people thinking about becoming entrepreneurs, you're hearing what she's saying. Her salon is really marketing to those that would afford buying furs.
Yeah.
And so there's a book by Dan Kennedy. He talks about the importance of marketing to the affluent, right? And some of us who, you know, have grown up in different lifestyles, maybe we've not been affluent, we may feel intimidated by that. But the idea is that the affluent, they're not concerned about gas prices and inflation because they have stored away, you know, they are living on an inheritance. And when we can provide signature services like what you're saying, that is a real blessing, and not only to them but to yourself as well, to be able to use those profits to do good in the world. And so I think that's really amazing. So I hope people's gear wheels are turning, like, how can I provide something different than what's in the marketplace? Because how many other salons were doing fur shows, you know, like who's doing that at that time, you know? And so and who's done it since, actually, you know, and whatever that niche may be, it may not be furs now, right? But it may be something else. We have some people on here, they're saying, man, Florence is saying, awesome, God will make a way. And then I'm not gonna say your name right. I'm gonna try though. Tandeka Moyo. She's saying business and the work of the church are one. Blessings to everybody. Thank you. And we also have Chance on here saying, great point. All right. So you got some supporters. They're loving what you're saying. So now this is amazing. So tell us, so your salon is booming. Okay. It sounds like you got.
Now this is not my salon yet. So now I'm in the process of getting my salon. Okay.
Tell us about your salon, how your salon starts to open, and then what kind of life that opens up to you.
Okay. Yes. So after we got our business plan together, the bank gave us the money. We started our construction on the salon, and then we were ready for the grand opening. Right before the grand opening, the salon that I was working in, the owner got wind that I was opening up my own salon. The good thing back then is all of the stylists used to bring their stuff in and out every day. We never left our tools in the salon. We had salon bags, and everybody would take their stuff back. So that was good. My father was on his way to work one morning, and he called me. He said, the salon is on fire.
What?
I said, what? Somebody had set the salon on fire.
The salon where you worked, or the salon that he was
where I worked. Oh. Now we were in the process of getting ready for our grand opening within 2 weeks, but we weren't quite ready. But everything was set up, but it wasn't quite ready. When that salon caught fire, I had no choice but to move into my salon prematurely. So the team and I, the girls that decided to come with me, about 4 of them from that salon, and plus we had set up, what I did back then, I hired a company to answer the phone because grand opening is coming and we're hiring, you know.
Nice. Underline that point. Hire help.
Yes. Awesome. So I never had to answer the phone or anything. They took all of the messages and set up the interviews and all of that. So by the time we actually had the grand opening, I think it was August 7th or something like that. I had sent out all of these invitations. My grand opening was so amazing. Even the mayor of the city came.
Come on.
And you know, him and my dad were friends. Well, they became friends, I should say. But I have pictures of them together. He came in his Hawaiian shirt because he had just gotten back from Hawaii, and it was packed. I mean, people coming in and out, and it was on a Sunday. But it was amazing the turnout that came. And from then on, it was like the best time of my life. I had a team that initially they were employees. You know, I had to pay taxes for them and all of that. And it was not fun. But after about maybe 2 years, they said they wanted to just pay booth rent. It was like a no-brainer for me. I was like, wow, because I was paying some of the taxes for them, you know, so that if we got sick or whatever, they decided they wanted to go booth rent. My booth rent back then was $125 a week for 8 hairstylists and 2 nail techs. And all I had to pay was the receptionist.
Wow.
And you know, they hired their own shampoo assistants and all of that. But as a business owner, I told them, you know, I will supply all towels. And I had a retail section that I sold Nexus. Now, that's one thing. When you go into a salon business, you're not just doing hair, you got to do some retail. So I had a salon boutique. I had little essentials like jewelry, you know, just trinkets, cute little clothing, hats, and all of the hair products. I sold Renkim, Nexus, Aveda. What was the other line I sold? There was another line that I started selling, but it was like a branded one that you could put your own name on it.
This is really good because what you're telling us is that not only was it you in there with your services, but you had expanded. So the whole job wasn't dependent on your labors, but you had your team there. And then on top of that, you had products, right? So that's making money without you even having to lift a finger. It's having more products in there. But
exactly. It left me with all I had to do was just be a manager. I still had a good clientele. I could do my clients and I can travel. I can spend time with my kids.
Nice.
But my kids, I had a space there that was a playroom, you know, with a TV and little games. I had a kitchen. I had a snack bar, you know, so that when people came in, they could bring their own food. They had a snack bar because I didn't want people eating on my salon floor.
Right.
So
that's right.
Yeah. The way we designed it, we had a buzzer to buzz people in.
Wow.
And they stop at the receptionist desk and they can sit in the waiting area. And if they had food, they were invited to go to the snack bar. But we also had things like fruits and juices and chips and things that they could purchase. So it was like multiple streams of income coming through that one little salon. And another thing that we did, I forgot about this, we invited different crafters, you know, people who made hats, people who did all kinds of crafts. So one Sunday we had a bazaar, you know, that they came and they set up their little booth and they paid like $20. I think we had about 10 booths and they paid $20 to set up their booth and they could sell their stuff inside my salon.
Talk about attraction, right? Client attraction. People that didn't know your salon was there, but they're coming because of that whole fair.
Exactly.
But now I know, so you got to tell us, because people might be listening on right now and thinking, oh, this is the dream life that they talked about. But this isn't even it, guys. Listen, this is not the dream life that we were telling you about, that we're advertising. Tell us, like, how do things transition into that? Like, because this sounds like a dream life already, but this isn't even what you were speaking about. So tell us that dream life, and now take us into how does it shift?
Yeah. Okay. So then I went through a divorce. And, you know, here I am with 2 children going through a divorce. I had some rental property at that time. So at the time, I really, because it was my idea to get the divorce, it really wasn't his fault. We had just kind of like kind of grown apart, and I wanted to make it like a smooth transition. I just wanted to be on my own, and it looked selfish at the time, but I felt like I was doing him a favor because we had been best friends growing up. But then, you don't marry your best friend if you're not in love with your best friend. I still love him to this day because he's the father of both my children. But it had gotten to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. And he wasn't happy either, but he still wanted to stay in the marriage. But we went through that divorce. He was hurt, of course. I hurt him. But he was more angry than hurt. But it took some years for him to get over that. But during that time, I had become friends with who became my second husband. He was just a friend. That's it. He was an older man. He was in business. He had a construction company. He had all of these properties. And from time to time, I'd call him and I said, what do I do about this? Or what do I do about that? There was nothing romantic about it on my part at all. When he heard that I was going through a divorce, he approached me by phone because he lived in Michigan. And he said, I know you're going through a divorce. He said, but when I first met you 8 years ago, I said, she's going to be my wife. I said, you're kidding me. No, you didn't. He said, yes, I did. He said, but then I found out that you were married. So I just kind of did a hands off. So I said, yeah, sure. And then he said, you're a strong woman. And what you need in your life is a strong man. And I'm more than that man for you.
Uh-oh, it sounds like Billy D.
I said, let me tell you something. I said, I'm celibate and I intend to be celibate until I get remarried. So if you're looking for somebody to sleep with, it's not me.
That's right.
And he laughed. And I said, why are you laughing? He said, I think it's just so refreshing. He said, you're not going to believe this, but I'm celibate too. I said, you're not. No, you're not. He said, yes, I am. I didn't believe him, but he convinced me that he was. He said, here's my proposal to you. I'll give you 1 year to decide if you want to be with me. You can come to Michigan. I'll wine, I'll dine you. I'll show you all the things that you want. And if at the end of that year, you're not interested in me, we'll go our separate ways. No hard feelings. And I thought about it and I kind of put it aside. Then my mom died and I went through this devastating loss of losing my mother. And he was there for me, by phone because he lived in another city. He would just call and give me encouragement. He would pray with me, just all the things that a good friend will do. So maybe about 3-4 weeks after my mom passed, let me back up. When my mom died, I didn't want anybody touching her. I did her hair and I did her makeup because I wanted her to look like her. I didn't want them making her look like a dead body. Right. I pulled her hair up and I talked to her the whole while I was tending to her body. And I didn't break down to cry. I shed a few tears, but I didn't break down during that whole time because I felt like I had to be strong for my dad. That it brings up some emotion for me. Yes. But I felt like I had to be strong for my dad and my younger siblings. And I was. I just felt like I had to be the one to hold us together. And I think I did a good job of doing it because we are so close. My parents raised us to appreciate each other. It's 8 of us, although we lost my brother a couple of years ago. But it's 7 girls and a boy. So after about 3 or 4 weeks, everybody's gone back to their different cities because some of them were in college and some of them were working in other cities. I decided I would take him up on coming for a visit. So I'm this makes me emotional too. I'm riding down 94 East, and this song comes on, Wind Beneath My Wings. And I started crying. I cried all the way to Michigan. But by the time I got there, I felt better that I had finally released all of that pain of losing my mom. I mean, I'll never really get over it, but I've accepted it. You know, she's gone and she's not suffering anymore, but she was only 59 when she died. So after, I mean, that first visit that I spent with him, I stayed at the Four Seasons Hotel, and in my mind, I'm thinking, I know he's going to try something. But that whole weekend, he was the perfect gentleman. I checked into the hotel. He had gotten me a spa package.
Wow.
I did the spa thing. I mean, I had a whole suite. I mean, my whole family could have stayed there, but it was all for me. And he called me to let me know what time he's picking me up for dinner. We would go to dinner. It was just wonderful. Sometimes when I would go there, we'd go horseback riding. Sometimes we just have a picnic. I remember one time I hadn't been on a horse since I was a teenager. And I had come back to the office and my legs was, it was, you know, it's, if you've ever been on a horse, that feeling like your legs feel like noodles when you get off. It's a funny feeling, but it's like, oh my goodness, my legs are feeling strange. So I went back to the salon, and my team was there, and they said, "Did you have a good time?" I said, "Yeah, I had a really good time." I said, "But we went horseback riding, and my legs feel so strange." They said, "Okay, horseback riding."
Oh boy. Oh boy.
They could not believe other things. Okay.
Oh boy.
But anyway, long story short, he totally swept me off my feet, and it did not take me a year to decide that I wanted to marry him. Right. So I also did interior decorating. I forgot that. I had gone and taken a course in interior design. And I had created business cards and, you know, what I offered and all of that. I told you I'm a serial entrepreneur. And because he was a builder, he said, "Well, maybe you can decorate some of my buildings." I said, "I would love to." So I gave him a proposal. Even though he had already proposed to me, I gave him a proposal, what I charged, what I offered. Then he said, "Well, there's a house that I'm building now. I'd like for you to go by and take a look at it and tell me what you would do to it." So I took a look at the house and said, "I would do this, this, and that." And I gave him a big picture of what I would do with this house. And he said, "Okay, I'll let the owner know." Okay, so maybe a month or two later, he said, "I want to go by the house and so you can see the progress we've made." So we go by the house, and you know, he's gotten the grass in and everything, all the walls are in. I said, "This is absolutely beautiful. They're going to be really happy here." And I said, "You got the proposal that I sent you, right?" He said, "Yeah, I gave it to the owner and he loves everything that you said." I said, "Okay." So I had my daughter with me and his son. They were about the same age at the time. And we had gone to dinner and come by this house. So he said, so we go in and we're looking all around, and he said, "Oh, I forgot something." He pulls out a box with a 2.5 carat ring.
Watch
and
out.
he said, "God wanted you to have this, and so do I."
Mercy.
I was like, "What?" A 2.5 carat diamond ring. It was beautiful. It used to blind me.
Wow. Wow.
I was just floored. And so that's how we became engaged. So fast forwarding, he said, oh, and by the way, he took the keys out of his pocket, gave me the keys. He said, the owner wants you to have this too. I said, what is that? He says, the keys to this house. I
Wow.
said, what? I said, the owner. He said, I'm the owner.
Wow.
Can you see why I was just
Oh man.
swept off my feet?
Oh man.
It was like a movie. And when I used to tell this story in the salon, they said, what movie was that? I said, this is actually what happened to me. So we got married, and he was kind of quirky too, and I knew that. He said he didn't want a big wedding, so it wasn't about what I wanted, but I didn't care at the time. It was all about, this is how it's going to be, and this is what we're going to do. He said, I don't want a big wedding. He said, but you can have the biggest reception you ever had. You think about what you want to do. So we went, he said, you just tell me where you want to get married. I had seen the movie with, I can't even think of their names now, because, you know, sometimes no matter how important something is to you, you just kind of put it off on the shelf. But the movie was filmed on Mackinac Island in the Grand Hotel.
Wow.
That's where we had our honeymoon.
Wow.
Mackinac Island Grand Hotel, and it was amazing. Horseback riding and all kinds. We would ride from one side of the island to the other, and it was just amazing. The first 3 years of my marriage was like a fairy tale. I mean, all I had to do was say, oh, I like that thing, and that thing ended up in my house.
Wow.
So I began to learn, don't just frivolously say you like something if you don't really like it, because he was going to get it. That's the kind of person he was. But he was also a man that you didn't question. You didn't ask him question. I remember one time I said, I got excited and I said, he was vegetarian, and I was an excellent vegetarian cook, vegan. I used to make cheesecakes as I had started a little side.
I have to come over and
I had started a little side business doing vegan cheesecakes.
Oh, side business.
People at University of Michigan. And I said, I'm going to make him all of his favorites. So I called him to surprise him. I said, what time are you coming home? And he said, I'm not sure. And it was something about the tone of his voice. He said, I'm not sure, maybe 5. I'll let you know. And I said, oh, okay. And I hung up, and he called me back. He said, let me tell you something. He said, don't ask me what time I'm coming home. I'll be home. He said, I'm a businessman. If I tell you I'm coming home at 5 and I don't come home to 7, then you're going to be upset. So don't ask me. I'll let you know what time I'm coming home. And it was like somebody had slapped me, because he had never been brusque with me before. And I said, okay. But you know, I didn't cook that dinner though. I was like, okay, I won't cook dinner. So I just took the kids out to eat. So he had just started acting kind of funnier than before. Now, 3 years, maybe 3 days before our 3rd anniversary, our personal trainer had come. We were taking a martial arts class, and my daughter and I, we had gotten dressed in our gis, and the personal trainer had come, and I had been sauteing some vegetables or something on the stove, and the personal trainer come. So I turned the stove off so we can get started. And we were working out in the sunroom. And I hear this knock on the door, and I said, who could that be? And we had a big picture window, and I couldn't see. I saw a lot of cars, but we had big trees in front of our house, so I couldn't really see what it was. But I went to the door, and there at the door was the SWAT team. The SWAT team leader was at the door. So he gave me this green piece of paper, and he said, this is a warrant to search your house. And I said, I think it's a mistake. I said, I think you got the wrong house. Search our house for what? And he said it was for drugs. And I said, you've really got the wrong person. I said, but you're welcome to search. So I invited them in. So they didn't have to bulldoze in or anything. So they told us to sit in one place and not move. So we just sat in our space and continued to do our stretches because.
What are you thinking at this time? Like, what are you thinking?
It's a mistake. It's all a mistake. And I said, can I call him? They said, no, just sit. Just sit. So they went around the house and they asked me the code to the safe. We had this great big safe and he had given me the code, but I always had a problem trying to open it. So I couldn't open the safe. So all of them came in. I mean, it was so many of them. They came in and they took the safe outside. They were there like all day long until the night. They tore my house apart. I mean, they even pulled insulation from the ceiling.
Wow.
And all they found was my money that I had in my bank bag with my name on it, my business on it. I had some CDs, some certificates of deposit in there. And I had about $5,200 in cash that I was going to make a deposit on Friday. They took that, they said it was evidence. They even took my book with my clients, all of my Mary Kay clients in there. They even took that, but they said it was for evidence. So I'm sitting there and finally they tell me that my husband has been arrested for drug trafficking. I said, that can't be true. I couldn't believe that. But then I get a call from his attorney who tells me that I need to tell me where to go to get the money to get him bailed out. But I couldn't do that until Monday. And my husband had an eye transplant and he used to have these eye drops that he had to put in his eyes. So I said, well, he's going to need his eye drops. He's going to need this. And so I gathered a little care package to go up to the jail to take it to them. They wouldn't let me see him. They said I couldn't see him until Monday. So that whole weekend, I'm just floored,
So you're not angry at him at this point. You're just
no, because I know it's got to be a mistake. I just knew there was no way. He wasn't, in my mind, if he told me the sky was green and I'm looking at it and it's blue, I would have believed him. That's how the relationship was. I was totally brainwashed with him.
Wow.
And, back then it wasn't brainwashed. I was just trusting. But, of course, when everything come to light, I was brainwashed. So when I went and paid the fine, and he came home and he told me, he said, baby, it's a big mistake. He said, I was just doing a favor for a friend and I didn't know this was going on. And everything he told me, I believe that. I said, that makes sense. You're doing a favor for a friend. You don't know what's in the box. You're just delivering the box. I was naive enough to believe that.
Right.
And over the next 3 years, they would schedule a hearing a hearing for him. I would get on my knees and I would pray over him. I would lay hands on him. I would burn white candles and praying that the Lord would give him favor and all of this kind of stuff every single time. So I would say they would schedule a hearing over the next 3 years about 4 times a year. But he began to get meaner and meaner. When the first 3 years, when the kids and I would come home, we'd push that button, the garage door would open, and we'd see his truck in the garage. We'd say, "Papa's home, Papa's home." We were so glad he was home. We was just excited. We used to watch movies together. We used to do all kinds of. We were like the Brady Bunch, But those next 3 years, when we would push that button and the garage door go up, said, "Papa's home. What can we go do?" We pull out and maybe go somewhere else. And if we came home, he would be up in his his library, he said that he always meditated, and we couldn't have any noise whatsoever. So it was 4 levels of the house. It was like a quad level. You come in on the main floor. There was this big open concept living room, kitchen, mud room, laundry room there, and then you can go downstairs to the family room, and there was bathrooms there, and our game room was down there, and you go up to the 3rd level, and my office was there, and there was 3 bedrooms on that level, and then on the top level was the whole master bedroom. He would be in the master bedroom in his library meditating. We'd be quiet as a mouse, come downstairs to the bottom level and turn the TV on. He'd come down and said we were keeping up too much noise.
Wow.
My daughter at the time was working with the football team as, I think she was like their manager or something. And we had a meeting at the house one day. And as soon as the meeting started, he comes home and he said, all those people got to leave my house. Tell them to get out of here.
Wow.
And I went down and I said, I am so sorry. He's had a tough day. And, you know, a lot, I truly apologize, you know, because whatever he did, I apologized for him. I tried to understand him, and I tried to figure out what I could do to make it better. Mm-hmm. Now, here's something else that happened during that time. He told me, well, he called me one day and he said, now this was in our, I think it was the 5th year. He called and he said, I'm here at the doctor's office and he wants to talk to you. And I said, oh my goodness, are you okay? He said, yeah, I'm fine, but he can explain it to me better than I can. So this man, it was a white gentleman. I knew that from his voice. And he said, hi, I'm Dr. whatever. I can't even remember his name. He said, I have your husband here in our office and he has what is called cardiomyo something, some long words. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, that's a heart condition that that sometimes men who are in sports get. And if he's upset by anything, if there's too much pressure on him, he could just drop dead and die. I said, oh my God. He said, so that means no sex, no, when he comes home, don't question him. Don't, just give him peace and quiet. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never heard of that before. Nobody else had either, I'm sure. But I believed it. And I told him, I said, sweetheart, I love you. I didn't marry you for sex. In fact, I could go forever. Because remember, I was celibate the whole time we were dating. I'm okay with that. He said, you sure you're okay with that? I'm fine with it. I said, just hug me from time to time. So he would hug me when he felt like it. But it became a marriage where we were just in the same house, but he wasn't affectionate or anything like that. But we tried to make the best of it, the kids and I. And I remember one time he got angry at his son, and he took him out into, we had a 6-car garage, and he took him out into that garage, and I could hear all of this boom, boom. He beat that boy so bad because of something he thought he had done. And there was nothing we could do. I was afraid to call the police.
Right.
Because I didn't know what he would do to me. So it was different things like that happened over those next 3 years. Then finally in August, it was August 2nd, his court date, his final court date came. And at that final court date, he asked me to go. He had never asked me to go to court with him before. And I felt like, oh, he does need me. He needs me. He wants me to go to court with him. And I was working at Bax Global at the time. I was a forms creator. So I had my briefcase and my all of my tools in my bag, my legal pads and all of that. I walked in there looking like an attorney because I was kind of embarrassed, but I didn't want people to think I was embarrassed. Oh, that poor wife over there. So I walked in with confidence and I sat down right behind him and his attorney. And I just pulled out my legal pad and I started writing notes. That day I found out my husband had several aliases. The year that we got married, I mean, the 2 years, 2 or 3 years before we got married, he had just gotten out of prison. I didn't know any of that. And they said that he had been arrested because he had over $250,000 worth of drugs to traffic. And apparently, I don't know if he was the kingpin or if there was a kingpin over him or whatever, but I didn't have any expression on my face. If anybody had looked at me, they would have said, she's not even shocked. I was shocked, but I just kept writing. And I was like, oh my God, this is not what I signed up for. So I'm writing the notes, but in a way, I still wasn't totally convinced that he was really guilty. I don't know why. I just felt like we're going to have to get through this and he's not really guilty because he told me he wasn't guilty. He told me, he said, it's going to sound tough, it's going to sound rough. But the fact that he had aliases and all of that, I began to kind of, my mama didn't raise no fool, that kind of stuff. And I said, Lord, just lift the blinders off my eyes, So they broke for lunch. And then he took me, I think that year was the year that they had built these big casinos in Detroit. I'd never been because I don't go to casinos. So he took me over there for lunch to show me around because he had built something over in the casino as well. And I was like, wow, I'm so proud of you. This is great. So I'm looking around. We had lunch. And then he said, baby, it's going to be just fine. Everything's going to be fine. He held my hand and all of that. So we go back to court. I was sitting there still writing because I didn't question him about what I had written at all. I still have that pad today because that's supposed to be in book 2 that I haven't gotten around to doing yet. So the judge gave him all kinds of accolades. She said, really appreciate you coming. Every time we've had a court date, you've always shown up. You've been the perfect gentleman. We appreciate all of the work that you've done around the city of Detroit. You have created beautiful neighborhoods. You've done this. And she went through all of that. And she said, but you've been accused of drug trafficking. So we're remanding you back to custody. And he's standing up at the time. And I just dropped my pencil and I'm like, what? This is not supposed to be happening. They're going to take him to prison. And I'm just sitting there and he never turned around to look at me and say anything. He gave his wallet to his attorney and his attorney said, well, Judge, can he at least have $100? Judge said, sure. So he took $100 out of his wallet. And the attorney turned around and gave me his wallet with his license and all of that in there. He said, you keep that. I didn't see his face. They just came and cuffed him and took him in the back. Then so over the next few days was the true nightmare. I had become friends with a woman who used to work for him.
Before you go into this part, Barbara, for those who may be just now tuning in, so we have been listening to Barbara. She has been sharing her story with us, how she had become a Regal Salon owner and how her dreams have turned to nightmare. And so she is just in the part of how things are being open to her, how the dream life that she was living, the person she thought that loved her, is now not who she thought he was. And so if you've been tuning in, we know that she's not the only person that has experienced something like this.
Not at
There
all.
may even be people on here right now. Maybe you're watching this and her story really resonates with you. You you maybe have been getting some signs, some flags, and we want to encourage you, okay? We want you to know that you're not alone and that there is help out there. And that's really why Barbara is sharing her story. And I want to say thank you to this point. I know it's been very difficult. You know, you've been sharing a lot. I know I've been in tears. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up. But I'm like, man, just to hear what you've gone through and how the enemy can be an opportunist, you know, and at times in our lives where we're vulnerable, present options. And so I know that there are people on here who are listening. We have Florence who said, those are some hard lessons. Thank you. Thank you. God was right there with you all the time.
Yes, he was.
And so people are, your story is resonating with them. And honestly, we're really grateful that you would even share these things, because these are the things that people don't talk about. This is the shush, don't say nothing, you know, let me continue to look, you know, in a way that everybody can think that I've just always, you know, been whatever. But you are sharing some really strong lessons from your life, and people are able to hear and learn, and they can resonate with you. And you have a book too. I just want to highlight that. So I
That's two
know
books.
she has 2 books, and so I know that you're going to be telling us how things actually turn around soon. Um, but just in case, because there's lots of things that she could have shared with this audience that she did not. And so you've got to get her books. You've got to get her books. Okay. It's amazing. Not only is it going to be her story, but what she learned and what you can learn. Because sometimes we're like, well, what do I do? You know, what do I do? Well, you have the opportunity to get those books. And I believe also to even contact her. So we're coming to that. But now take us, Barbara, take us to, you know, the final whammy for you. And then how does this turn around? How do you make it through this? We've got to hear that before we close out. So
Yeah.
thank you.
I was going through so much pain during that time, you know, because I'm thinking, what can I do to help him? And what else can I do? You know, how am I going to go on if he has to stay in jail? Because he had told me that maybe if I have to go to prison, it's a prison for executives. I'll be in there for a year, and I could do a year standing on my head. And I said, but I don't want you to go a year at all. So I had become friends with a woman who had been working with him. And a few years earlier, I had looked at our phone bill, and I noticed the phone bill was extra thick. And I normally didn't even handle the business bill side, but because it was so thick, I wanted to see what was in there. Why is this bill so heavy? And I looked in and I see 2 phone numbers, and I don't know, I just began to highlight those numbers and his numbers, and the phone numbers looked the same. The last 2 digits were different. And I'm like, who is this? So because it was so many calls, I kind of looked around and I said, okay, I don't want him to know what I'm doing, but I called that number and a woman answered, and I was like, oh, a woman answered. So what do I say? I said, hi, how are you? And she said, yes. And I said, hi, my name is Barbara, and I'm looking for Helen. I chose Helen because my sister's name is Helen.
That's right.
And I didn't even think to put a last name at the time. And she said, this is Helen. I said, really? I said, you don't sound like the Helen that I'm calling for. I said, I'm calling for, and there was a cup of water on my desk. And I said, I'm looking for Helen Waters. And I said, wow. I said, what? Because we got into a conversation. I immediately liked her, and we just had a good conversation about life. But by the time that conversation was over, I knew she was married. I knew that she didn't have any kids, and I knew so many other things about her. I didn't tell her so much about me. I told her my life before Michigan. I said, oh, I work in a salon and I do this. I live in Indiana and blah, blah, blah. Because already I'm suspicious of her, but not. you know? So the next day, I get up my nerve and I call that number again. And I said, hello, Helen. This is, may I speak to whatever her husband's name? I can't remember his name now. And she said, may I ask who's calling? And I said, my name is Barbara Coleman, and I'd like to speak to your husband. And she said,
Wow. Wow.
sweetheart, why would you want to speak with my husband? She said,
Wow.
I thought that might be you. She had such a soft, soothing voice. And I said, I just want to know if your husband knows how close you are with my husband.
Wow.
And she started laughing. She said, sweetheart, that's not the way you go about it. If you think your husband is cheating on you, you never call the woman, you call your husband. But let me tell you, I know your husband. I've known your husband for years. He's a wonderful man. My husband and him have been friends for years. There's been times we've been in trouble and your husband has come to the rescue. Your husband loves you. And I don't see how you can even think about accusing him of cheating on you.
Wow.
She said, look at the house you live in. Look at the car you drive. That I bet you that man treats you better than you've ever been treated in your life. And by the time she finished with me on that phone call, I apologized to her for even calling her. And then I apologized to my husband later for even thinking that he would cheat on me.
The mind game.
I said, I bet they had a real good laugh on me that day. But over the next couple of years, she and I became really good friends. I could talk to her about just about anything, but I'm not one of those people to tell every single thing, but I did tell her quite a bit, and we laughed. She'd encourage me. She became like a big sister to me. So when they remanded him to custody, I called her and I called his daughter, because she would manage some of the apartment complexes. And we had to have an executive meeting, and I had to be there. I had never been to one before, but I had to be there because my name was on the bank books and all of that. It was on the properties as well. So I walk into the meeting, and I'm still kind of weepy at this time because I've never had to deal with anything like this. And I think I was looking for sympathy, and everybody was just sitting there. And I think I was only there because my name was on the thing. But the person who ran the meeting was Helen. She knew all about everything. And my sister Jackie was sitting next to me, and she said, don't tell them anything that you're planning, because by then I'd already made up my plans. Let me back up a little bit. That weekend, when all of that happened, I think it was like on a Thursday. That Friday, Helen and her husband, John, came to town because there was jazz in the park. Show you how God put people in place. Helen came to the house, and she could see on my face something wasn't right. And she said, what happened? And I spilled the story, crying, snot coming out of my nose and all of that, because I was just devastated and embarrassed to tell my family that I had made this huge mistake because I didn't know what to do. So Helen prayed with me.
Mercy.
Then she grabbed the yellow pages, and we just went down the yellow pages. She said, first, what you're going to do, you're going to get out of here. We're going to call a mover, and we're going to call a realtor, because I had to meet the attorney who signed the house over to me, who signed all the properties over to me, because he was going to prison. So I had the quit claim deed for the house that I had to show the realtor. So we picked out a realtor, and I'm on the phone with this man that I've never met, and I'm crying, and I'm telling him what had happened. He said, don't worry, I'll be there for you. Him and his little boy and his wife would come by the house over the next few weeks, mowing the grass, making sure the house looked presentable, and he took over that listing. We also found a mover that we were trying to move like ASAP, but I didn't want them to know that I was moving. So I
Them,
had,
including Helen.
yeah, including I didn't want them to know that I was moving. I told them I was having a garage sale. So I listed a garage sale because I figured this big house, 5,000 square feet, I'm never going to get into a 5,000 square foot house. I didn't even want a house that big with just me and the kids, you know. I had to sell some stuff. So I sold a couple of bedroom sets. I sold a dining room set. I sold some equipment because he had a full full gym with all of the pieces in there. I went selling everything, but they thought I was having a sale so I could raise money. They thought I was trying to save money, raise money so that he could be able to have an appeal. But that's not the reason I was selling. I was selling because I was trying to get out of Dodge. Because by then I'm convinced that Helen is the other woman, no matter what. I called my dad. My dad got on a bus. The moving van came and got all of the furniture that I was taking. I had decided to move to Georgia, where my half of my family lived at the time. So we were looking for them to come, like, please come now. And they said, well, I'm sorry, we can't come right away. We can't come until Friday. That was great because that gave us time to pack up stuff, and they were there in 2 days. They came and listed everything, recorded everything, loaded it up, and I called a storage unit in Georgia for them to deliver the stuff to. I was flying back and forth because I wanted my daughter not to be involved in it.
Right.
So I took her to Georgia to be with my sister, and then I would fly back because I didn't want them to know what I was up to. And I pulled it off. And after I sold everything, you know, people would come by and check on me. And I said, you know, I'm just trying to sell everything so that we'd have enough money to do this or that, you know, because the money was tied up in the bank accounts as well. So I withdrew what I could, but it still wasn't enough. So Helen and John gave me the money to pay for the movers. And
when you say Helen, you're now talking about your real sister Helen,
my
not
real
the
sister, yeah, my real sister
Helen. Okay.
Yeah, my real sister Helen. Her and John had come for the jazz in the park. So we got the realtor, we got the movers, and they came. Then my dad came a few days later, and I had reserved a 14-foot truck to move the rest of my stuff, you know, clothing and personal items that I didn't want the movers to put in storage. When my dad got there, we went to get the truck, and they told us, we don't have a 14-foot truck. We only have a 17-foot truck.
Wow.
I said, but that's going to be too big. And the closest place that we could have gone and got another truck would have taken too long. So my dad said, don't worry about it. We'll get it, and I'll put some 2x4s so the stuff won't shift around. When we started packing that, some of the people from my church came to help us pack. And when we started packing that truck, by the time we finished, the truck was packed so tight, not another thing probably could have gotten in there. And my dad got a car carrier so that we could put my car and carry my car. So I didn't have to drive or anything.
Wow,
he just came
great.
to my rescue. And, you know, it was like I was saying, Daddy, you know, this is what happened. And he came and got me and moved me to Georgia. Okay, so over the next few days, another thing, God put people in place. His daughter calls me. She really loved me, but I hadn't been seeing her very much. And she called me and she said, if my dad asked you to get money out of the house for his appeal, don't do it, because he really wants the money to give to Helen. He wanted me. He called me to the jail, and I remember looking at him through that little 8x10 glass. And by now, I already know about Helen because Shirley had verified everything. When she called me, I pretended to know stuff that I didn't even know. And I said the right thing because she asked me how long had I known. I didn't know what she was talking about at first. And I said, how long have you known? And she told me how long when she had figured it out and all this kind of stuff. So now I already know what I was suspecting was true. Helen was the other woman. Okay, so then it occurred to me, well, if he's guilty of cheating on me, then he's probably guilty of the drug thing too. That was just my light bulb moment, you know. So I got everything moved. So over the next few months.
And Barbara, let me just say, because I know that you're about to go into the move, and man, I'm telling you, your audience has not moved. Okay. So we're all over here in bated breath, right? Like, what is going to happen next? So you have your supporters that have been here this whole time. We have Jacqueline on here saying you are a strong woman and have been brave. We are needing to come down to the end here. And so we warned you guys that there would need to be a part 2 and that you might not get to hear the whole story. And this is why you definitely need to get her books. Okay. Book 1, book 2. And it sounds like she has a book 3 that she's going to be working on. But not only that, but we need to have her come back on here to give us more of, you know, the power of her story. And so, man, I'm like, no, I don't even want to pause here, but you got to tell us before, because we can't end like this. We can't end like this, but we know there's more to it. We know there's more in the move. We know there's more in the revelation of who he was and what was going on there. And this Helen that now we realize it's an affair this whole time. She's been like a friend and a confidant but she's really a backstabber. Yeah. And so you got to tell us, because obviously at some point you move. How in the world do you turn this around? Like what becomes that saving grace for you that you are able, because if I had never known your story, I always see you with joy. You've always got your head up. You know, you're always encouraging. That's what I know of you. So how did you remain beautiful like that in the midst of what you've been telling us? Can you tell us, like, what happened? Like, how did you, like, okay, this will not destroy me? Tell us that part before we go.
The best word I could say, it had to be faith over fear, because I was so afraid of everything. October came, the house got closed on, and I received the proceeds from the house. But then I was afraid to spend it because I thought, if he gets out, he's going to come after me and blah, blah, blah. I had gotten a P.O. box number, and one day I get a letter from him, and he sent the nicest letter to me to let me know that it was all okay. But right before that, he tried to put an injunction against me for selling the house, but it was too late. It went to court, and the judge said, she's your wife. It's in her name. There's nothing you could do, you know. So I was okay. So I bought another house for my daughter and me. And by December, we moved in, and I just started after I bought the house, I said, okay, now I got to get a job. So I went to work for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And while working there, I started working part-time at Ulta Salon and Beauty, because I needed that. I needed that connection. Yeah. After a few months, they said they needed a manager. Wow. I applied and I got the job. So I left Children's Healthcare of Atlanta after 3 years, and I started working for the next 7 years at Ulta Salon and Cosmetics as their salon manager. So it got me back into the seat of the beauty world. Yes, yes. And in 2011, I left there to open up my own salon studio. Wow. I retired from behind the chair in 2016, only because of my back, not because I didn't love it, but it took me 2 years to close, because I had to make sure my clients were in a good place with new hairstylists and stuff. Plus I had to get my mind wrapped around giving up another salon. Right. But this time it was for a good reason. It wasn't because I was forced to do it, or I had made a bad decision, but all I could say is faith over fear. And when you have a dream of doing something, don't let anything, even a heartbreak, don't let anything keep you from pursuing your dream.
Repeat
It's going
that.
to be some struggles. It's going to be some struggles, but it's going to be triumphs too. Don't look at the struggles because, be like that baseball. The pastor had a baseball yesterday and he bounced the ball. Every time Satan tried to bring you down, you're going to be lifted higher.
Come on.
So I just would tell everybody, just have faith and don't let fear stop you from pursuing your dream.
Wow. 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 This is amazing. And when you say a movie, I'm looking for that to actually happen. I believe that your story needs to be told to more people. You're definitely a business hero, to say the least. Because that's just it, what you said right there. That's a mic drop moment. Like, no matter what happens in your life, continue to pursue your dream, whether it's relationship failure, whether it's open doors and closed doors, whether what you could never have imagined to actually happen to you happened to you.
Yes.
You kept going and you found a way to make women beautiful. Tell us about that a little bit more before we close. Why do you love that so much? The idea of making women beautiful. Why does that speak to you? Why do you decide to serve women over 50 in this capacity? Tell us about that.
I have come across so many women over 50 who wants to say that, well, I'm older now, and I don't do this because I'm older. I feel like age is nothing but a number.
That's
And
right.
the only thing that gets old is shoes. And if you keep the shoes in the closet for a long time, the way fashions are, they'll come back and they'll be new again. So women need to embrace their own inner beauty, because I think everybody is beautiful in their own way. I'm beautiful and you're beautiful, but I'm my kind of beautiful
That's right.
and you're your kind of beautiful.
That's
And I
right.
don't think any of us need to be comparing each other to themselves. This person is doing that, I can't do that, or I could do better. It's not a competition. It's a single race. And if you just put your faith in God and just accept who you are, maybe you might not look like Halle Berry. You might look like who knows, Whitney Houston, or you might look like, I can't even think of actress' name, but they're all beautiful in their own way, so nobody can take your beauty away from you, but you have to give yourself permission to say, hey, look in the mirror every day and say, hello, beautiful. So when I meet women, I usually always say, hello, fabulous, hello, beautiful, hello, I try to encourage. I could be in the grocery store and I find something. I remember this little old white lady with silver hair walking around, and she was just walking with her head down in the grocery store. And I walked by, I said, hello, beautiful. I said, your hair looks amazing. I said, do you know how many people would pay to get the color that you have?
That's
She
right.
said, really? And she just perked up and she was like, thank you so much. It just did my heart good just to make her feel better. I didn't know her. I wasn't trying to get anything from her. It doesn't cost us anything to uplift each other.
That's right. That's right. We have Florence saying, I have been in tears. I admire your bravery, your faith. I pray your story would encourage other women and men. And that's so true, because it's not only women that experience this.
That's
There are
true.
definitely men who are found in places that, they realize that the person that they love and that they're investing in is actually not really for them. And that is so true. Thank you for saying that, Florence. Wow, wow, wow. I don't want the show to end. I don't want to end. This has been amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Please, can you highlight her books and where people can find them?
Well, we've got her information right up here to connect with Barbara Powell Love. Beebe Loves Beauty Solutions. Go to www.beebeauty.com. BeebeLove.com. You can also find her on Facebook as Beebe Love, BeebeLove.
Wow.
Please check her out because, and she has the books on her website, and in the description, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, there are Amazon links directly to her 2 books. And so please check those out. Which one of them in particular highlights your story?
That's Broken Promises, a Beebe Loves Chronicles.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so check out Broken Promises if you want to get all the other juicy details that we didn't have time for, but more so to be inspired. I mean, the level of brokenness that you had to go through. I mean, you were doing well, and then things seemed to get better, and then things took a turn for the worse, but you're still standing, you know, and that story is amazing. And that is why you are a business hero.
Absolutely.
And so thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that there are other people who are out here, they're watching this or they're going to watch this, especially those of you looking to go into beauty and cosmetics, and you're just appreciative of her sharing her story. And you heard some ideas, you know, just highlighting how she became a realtor and then she sold herself her own building. Hello, marketing to the affluent, having products and services that you also sell in your salon, in addition to the service that you have, having a team around you, having the mindset to be a manager and not just to work there. Those are really amazing nuggets that you were giving us. And the biggest nugget of all is that despite what you went through, not letting go of your dream.
Absolutely.
Despite what you went through, not letting go of your dream.
And not letting go of your faith.
Exactly. Always stay faithful. Remain faithful no matter what. No matter what it looks like. You know, God is there. He doesn't abandon us. He said, I will be with you through the storms. And when you're going through a storm, he's already there, and he's going to be there on the other side of the storm.
Wow.
Amen.
Wow.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today. We really appreciate you. And thank you all for hanging in with us. I know that we have really been enriched and we've been given a lot to think about by Barbara. So thank you so much. We hope that you will tune in next week when we have another amazing hero that we will be highlighting. And we also want you to like, share, and subscribe, and definitely share this show. Okay, we all know someone that needs to hear Barbara's story. So share this show with them. Okay, share this show with them. Let them know they're not alone and that their dream will not die. It can make it. All right, it can make it through the worst times, the roughest of times. And so we hope that you'll do that.
All right, and keep hanging on to God through your business journey. Y'all have a blessed day.
Yes.